Hey guys.
Awesome. Hey guys.
Hey. Thank you so much for jumping on here for another episode. Do we call these episodes at this point when I've done this many? I don't know. For another episode of Felicia Delaney Live. I am here today with Jaime Hanson. Jaime, thank you
Hey
so
guys.
much for jumping on with me. I just want to introduce you real quick because you are so interesting and so fun. I just want to make sure that they know what we're working with here. So you
Well,
guys,
thank you.
Jaime Hanson is a content marketer and a recovering news producer, but at heart, she's always been a storyteller. From making coffee runs in Shondaland to running red carpets for Entertainment Tonight, Jaime spent 7 years living the Hollywood high life before a new baby. And Cross Country Move had her living that yoga pants #mom life instead. Goodbye, stilettos. Hello, Sippy Cup. These days, Jaime applies the formulas of Hollywood to help brands create compelling content for their audiences. Her real passion, though, helping mamas find fulfilling, flexible work solutions when life throws a career plan A totally off track. When she's not working, Jaime spends her time stepping on Thomas trains. I know about that.
For
Singing
real.
in church. I can't sing. With her hunky husband and pushing her spoiled pup off the couch. So, Jaime, what's your dog's name? I got to know
Wally.
that.
And he will probably create a huge fuss at some point in the course of this whole thing. We just know it's going to happen.
What kind of dog is he?
He is a mix. He is a total rescue pup. All we know is he has some poodle in him because we've been really lucky he doesn't shed. But other than that, he is just an absolute mutt.
That's awesome. Okay, so Kimberly Voorhees says, I cannot wait for these blog tips. Megan West says, hey girls, I can't sing. You'll just turn that volume down. That happens to me all the time. So you guys, if you are watching this and you have a membership group, the volume, just don't turn the volume on.
Turn the volume down, guys. I'm trying to be able to see your comments at the same time. Forgive me. I'm good at writing. I'm bad at Facebook Live. We're going to figure this out.
Okay. So you guys, if you have a membership group and you have like girls that need to hear this information, this live is public and you can share it. If you are a blogger or anything like that and you know more bloggers, share this live to your page to share it with your friends. Unless you want them to keep sucking, then I guess don't share it. But you guys, Brianna Barrios, is it Barrios or Barrios? I don't know. She says, haha, love this. Me too, Brianna. Okay, so Jaime, let's talk about what you do. First of all, you ran coffee in Shondaland, and you guys, I'm working with Jaime to create like a really fun like writing workshop, and she has like some interesting experiences. For instance, attending Michael Jackson's funeral.
I have weird stories, you guys.
Okay, so let's start with the weirdest story, which is you attended Michael Jackson's funeral. What was that? What'd you wear?
Well, I was at the memorial service, which if you're a celebrity news junkie, you might remember at that time they did this huge memorial service like in downtown LA, shortly after Michael Jackson died, and a whole bunch of people performed. And quite frankly, I was in like fancy jeans and like a black shirt because I was running back and forth to a satellite truck. We were doing stand-ups and doing a whole bunch of content because basically it was his memorial service, but they treated it a little bit like the Super Bowl. So it was a little bit of a weird experience, but I was doing a lot of running around there and actually worked on that case. Shortly after Michael Jackson died, I was working with a reporter who was really familiar with the Jackson family for several years. So I went to Neverland on a helicopter and went a whole bunch of other places. But
what was it like when you rode over to Neverland? At that point, was it abandoned? Because like I've watched all of the documentaries like Finding Neverland and all that, and it was so abandoned like after he died.
It's very strange because, at that point it was only like 2 months later, I think. And then we were going for a specific event and I was in a helicopter because we were doing like overhead shots. And so there was like more going on there, but it's a really weird place. Like it's an interesting place, but I spent like, that's kind of my weird ex-life as I was a Hollywood news producer for several years. Prior to that, got the opportunity to hang out in the writer's room in Shondaland for Grey's Anatomy and Private Practice at the time. So this when Scandal was still in development, which is my favorite, but I was never around for that part.
My favorite.
It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, I spent several years doing that. Went to the Emmys, the Oscars, the Golden Globes. I went to the Cannes Film Festival 3 times, met a whole bunch of people, and it was a fun life for a long time. But I mean, it's also a burnout life. I was working 100 hours a week. I would wake up. Do y'all remember the days of like Blackberries? Before we all got our iPhones, and the Blackberry had yes, with a little keyboard, and then the Blackberry had the light that would turn from like green to red when you had a new message. I could have my phone on. I was like so keyed up and working on all the time that it could be the middle of the night. No vibrate, no sound on my phone. But if that light turned red, it woke me up, and I was like, "What's going on?" And you can just only do that for so long. And in addition to that, I met my husband living in LA, which was really fun and amazing, and made just the best of friends out there.
That's awesome.
But when I met my husband, and he really wanted to pursue grad school, and we were thinking, okay, we're not going to be in LA forever. Like, it's a hard place to live, a hard place to raise a family, and kind of making kind of those moves towards moving. And he was, shortly after we were married, he was accepted to grad school in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, which is where we live now. And all of that happened at once. So we got married, we were having a baby. We moved across the country when I was 36 weeks pregnant, because that's a good idea. And there's not a whole lot of red carpets in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So it was kind of like, okay, what's the new plan? And especially because my husband was in grad school, I was supporting our family at that time, and still am. He's actually a 5th-year PhD student now. So he has 1 more year left. And so I needed to find something that was like flexible and could move with me. And that's how I kind of transitioned from this sort of producer life to now I write content for the internet, and a lot of it, like 50,000 words a month, a lot of it. And so over time, I kind of had to figure out, okay, how to make that transition to be able to work flexibly, but also how to make that like an efficient system. So that's kind of my story.
That's awesome. So you guys, today, this little brain over here, this little Hollywood guru, she is going to go over how to write a bangin' blog, like the kind of blog that you don't have to sit and bang your head on your desk about, like it just flows out. So I'm really excited to hear about that, but I'm also really excited at a later point to hear about how you wound up on a golf cart with Betty White in the LA Zoo. So if you want to hear that, give us some hearts, because I definitely want to hear about that. So just click the heart emoji if you're watching this and you want to hear about how this girl wound up on a golf cart with Betty White in the LA Zoo. So if you are tuning in now and it's live, can you give us a gift down below, or like an emoji or something like that? Because we want to know that you're here. Catherine Binkley says, how fun. I love all things Shondaland. And Ellen McElveen, that's a really cool name. She says, woohoo, go Tar Heels. Okay, so let's jump to it. Let's break it down for us. Show us how we can do this.
Yes. So to give you a little bit of backstory on this, I have a formula that I use for writing content because of the volume that I create. And the way that came about is my first year that I was writing blog content and writing for the internet, I do primarily a lot of ghostwriting, which means I have before gone to the top of Inc.com is a big one that I went and looked, and there were 3 different posts there by 3 different authors. I'd written all of them, but they didn't have my name on them. And I finally decided, especially when I was doing this in the middle of like in between nap time, and y'all like first year with a baby while breastfeeding with the boppy in front of me, all that craziness. I needed like a system and a formula. And that's when it really kind of started to settle in on me that, wait a second, when I think back to the Entertainment Tonight newsroom where I work, or even being in the writer's room in Shondaland, they have every type of content that you can create. They have a formula for it. There is a set formula that they follow. And in both of those writers' rooms, the way that they did it actually was Post-it notes on the wall. Like literally, like grab your set of Post-it notes, like post it up on the wall in a row. And in TV, that has to do with blocks and segments. So there's, especially old school TV, pre-Netflix, they know when their commercial breaks are. And so they're going to have 2 blocks, that's 2 segments, and then a commercial break, and then another segment, and then a commercial break, and then 3 more blocks. And we always knew that the news went in ET. The news goes on top, the big breaking news. And then in the middle is kind of that short piece that's only going to hold people's attention for a few minutes. At the end, closer to the end, there's going to be a big feature segment. So they had their system. And so we walked in every morning there at 5 a.m., had our morning news meeting, and we were feeding out a show at noon. So that's a 30-minute TV show. You're creating that in a matter of hours with a team of 30 or so people. And you really have to have a system. And they were never starting from scratch. Like, how many of us have opened up a Google Doc and it's like a cursor blinking on a blank page, and you just want to die. You just want to stop right there before you get started. Yeah. And I finally realized, after hours and hours and hours wanting to stop before I even got started and being like, okay, this deadline is now, I have to figure this out, that I needed a formula. That if a formula was good enough for Shonda Rhimes, it was good enough for me. And that's kind of what I've started to develop. I have one overarching formula that I use that literally, in terms of any type of nonfiction or marketing content or informational content for the internet, you can use this formula for anything. I don't care if it's a email newsletter, a Instagram caption, like those long form Instagram captions, a blog post, a long Facebook caption. You can use this formula over and over again in different ways for everything. So I thought I'd kind of walk y'all through what that formula is and how it works. Sounds good?
Sounds really good. Really, really good.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to try to screen share on here, and we're going to see if I handle this tech coal business all right.
You can
okay, so tell me if you can see this. Give us some hearts if you're
Yes,
seeing
give us some hearts
this.
if you're seeing everything. Give this girl some hearts.
Awesome. Okay, we're good to go. So this is a 5-step formula that we're going to walk through. I'm going to show you how we do this over and over again in different types of content. We're going to break down what each of these pieces are. And then actually, if we have time, Felicia, I thought that you and I could jump in and kind of show them, put together a rough outline and kind of put this in action so folks can see how they might do it on their own.
I would love
Would that be fun?
Yes.
Let's write you a blog post.
Okay, let's do it. Before she gets started, you guys share this post with people that you love. Don't share it with your competition though. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. So go ahead, Jamie.
And by the way, we're going to link for you. We're going to set up for you guys in the caption. I have an opt-in that you can get to that will actually walk you through this exact same formula in ebook format, and also gives you a worksheet. If you're a handwriting type of person to outline your piece, they'll give you a worksheet you can print off over and over to go through this exact same thing.
And we get this for free? Is that what you said?
Yes. So you can. Wow. So it'll walk you through the whole thing for free.
Awesome.
On my opt-in there. So feel free to grab that, and you can kind of use that along with the workbook as you're creating your own piece of content.
Okay.
So let's jump into kind of what these pieces are. So we've got story, pivot, lessons, so what, action. 5 steps every single time. I actually have this little graphic that's here, those 5 steps printed on my main working desk where I work all day long when I'm writing. It's there every single time because it just helps me remember where am I at in the piece. And so let's walk through these steps. So we're going to go through a story, and you're always going to start at the top of the story. And a story can look a different way. It doesn't always have to be a super personal, here's the story of my life, or what my dog did, or whatever, or about your kids. Like, it doesn't always have to be like my hot mess story. It kind of depends on what your brand is. A story can also be, here's something that worked for someone else, or here is like a case study type of thing. But in effect, story has a couple of different purposes. First of all, you're creating a human connection. You're really saying, hey, person over there who is my ideal client, I get you, I know what you're about, and I'm going to show you that because I'm going to show you that that's what I'm about too. Like, I've been where you are, I've stood where you're standing right now, like I'm the person who can help you. So it's really telling them why should they care. And along with that, when they get that story and feel like I care about you and you care about me, that's going to make the lesson that you have to share with them so much more powerful, because they're going to remember it, because they're going to connect it to that story. So those takeaways that you give them, they're really going to hang on to. So every story, and this looks different every single time, but has 4 main points. There's a character. Someone is doing something. That character can be you as the writer, if you have the, I'm telling my story. It can also be the reader. So I have a corporate client that I work with really frequently, that they write a lot about business, accounting, and finance type topics. And their voice of their brand is that they speak in kind of a you format. So they put the reader, in terms of you and your business, as the main character for those lead-ins up front. Like that sets that as the character, and that's a great way to do that. And then that character needs to want something, so they have a desire. There is something in their way from what they want, so they have a conflict, and something that what you're going to give them is going to lead them to the result that they're looking for, so a resolution. So this is a little meta, because this process, by the way, it's for blog posts, it's for written content, but it's also every time you're given a webinar or a Facebook Live or a talk.
I was just about to say that. I was like, okay, my brain is going off right now, because I'm like, okay, this is how I lay out the webinar. Like,
exactly,
lay out all of my master classes. This is everything.
Exactly. It's the exact same system, which, by the way, means that you create a webinar, you better be reusing that webinar for blog posts and for opt-ins and for email content, because the format, you rearrange it a little bit, but the format is the same thing over and over and over again. So who is your character? Usually your character, the hero of the story, is always your audience. But you can put it in the first person, talk about yourself if you're saying like, hey, I'm the same as you. We have the same goals and want the same thing. What do they want? What's holding them back from what they want? And what's the resolution? We're setting that story up top. So let's use this as an example. I told you a story about my own experience of starting to write content online and needing to do that in a system and needing a formula for that. And that was the story I told. It has some points in it that might stick in your head that are memorable. And that set you up to make the move into what I have to share with you. And so that move that we make is what we call a pivot. And in written terms, it's a really easy way to make a pivot. Pivot just means, okay, here's my story, and now let me turn you around into what I have to teach you. In blog writing, you can do this so easily. You can say, here are a blank number of ways that you can XYZ. You can also make a transition in talking and say the same is true for, you might have noticed that earlier we were talking and I said that it's the formulas that we use in Hollywood are the same as what you can use to write for your content. So that's an example of a pivot. You're just making that quick transition and pivot. And a pivot in the grand scheme of your content is really pretty short. It's just like on the basketball court. It's a quick pivot and you move on to the next thing. And then your lesson can take on so many different points, or you can have so many different methods for it. You can do a numbered post. It can be a how-to post. Your lesson in a email newsletter type thing, this works especially well to do curated content. So here are 5 other pieces of content, whether they're yours or somebody else's, that can help you solve this problem. Link to your own blogs. Even in Instagram captions, you can give people a couple of quick tips of things that you do. Lessons, and I'll show you this in a few minutes on our Google Docs, but these are almost always come in the forms of 3s and 5s. If you're doing a really long post, you can have 3 and then 3 underneath it, like kind of stack them within to extend the length. But you're going to look at 3s and 5s in terms of those lessons and takeaways. Break it down into 3 easy steps, 5 easy steps. We all like that, even if it's just the illusion of simplicity. We all really like that simplicity. And then, so what? So you've given them the lesson. why should they care? What does it do from them? Remember back at that story, we have the conflict and the resolution. How is what you just taught them going to lead them to a resolution? How does it connect on a deeper level? And just a hint, this should probably tie back into that story that you told up top. It should tie back into, creating the resolution to that conflict. Whether or not you actually write it in the content that you create, almost always that's going to involve some sort of so you can. So what, so that I'm teaching you these 3 things, these 5 things, so that you can finish the sentence. What is it that you need? And I will tell you that the real key to me of I've managed writers at this point. I've had writers working on my team, and I've evaluated a lot of people and their quality of writing. I do a lot of editing for clients. And the difference to me is how much you care. And the way I explain that is it's a little saying I have, ask why until you cry and then write. And what I mean by that is if you're watching this content right now, maybe you're doing that because you have a business and you want to create more content for your business and you're just exhausted by spending all day trying to do that, right? But that's one thing, and that's a why. Okay, but why do you need content? Okay, maybe it's because you need, an income for your family. Well, why do you need an income for your family? Well, maybe it's because your husband lost his job and, you're relied on as the sole income provider for your family right now. Or maybe one of your kids has special needs and you really need to leave your 9 to 5 and you need this business thing to work so that you can do that. And when you put that, and not that you're going to say all of these things in your piece of content, but when you put that character in your head and you can tell yourself as the writer the story of how this is really going to make a difference to them. And that's not always true. This webinar that I'm doing, a blog post that I write, it is not going to save the world or, cure somebody's kid's cancer. I wish that I had that power, but I certainly don't. But when you put that level of care in your brain when you're creating content, it's going to dramatically change the quality of the content that you create because people can just feel that. They just know that you really care about helping whatever their real underlying problem is. So that's really something to pull into that so what. You're not necessarily saying it outright, but what is the underlying issue that you're solving? And then we always end with an action. What do you want them to do next? Whether that's opting into an email list, which I told you about, we'll kind of get to the end and I'll lead you over to check out my ebook that'll kind of walk you through these same steps or send you to write your own piece of content. You might, in your writing context, you might be asking somebody to sign up for a challenge. Even just asking them to comment or respond is an action step. And it might be, if you're kind of at that point in your sales funnel, it might be visiting a sales page to make a purchase or book a call with you or whatever that looks like in your story. But we all kind of need, just the same as we did in preschool, we'd sit in preschool and you're like, okay, teacher, what's next? Or when your kids, they don't know what to do and so then they just get in trouble. We all kind of want a sense of routine and what's the next instruction. So make sure that you're always ending with that, with a piece of content and letting people know where to go from here.
This is all speaking to me on so many levels because not only, I don't know, I guess it's the creative brain that I have where I'm always okay, what she's saying also applies to this and I can twist it into this and I can do all these things with this. This is really good advice, really good, a really good structure on how to build an email marketing that doesn't annoy people, that's of value. So that way you're not just putting things in people's inboxes so you can grab their attention where they're this did nothing for me. This was put together in 10 minutes by a VA. This is real, I don't know, this is awesome. And this is also how you build a whole brand.
Exactly.
A whole brand, not just how you build a blog. This is whole branding.
Yes, it works on so many different levels of your content, and that's really true. You can talk about your whole customer journey and brand story. We can zoom way out like that, or you can zoom into a single email newsletter or a series of email newsletters that go together, like if you're doing a welcome series, or even one individual blog post, whether that's a long form or short form, or even an Instagram caption. So it works on multiple levels, which is amazing. But also, if you are watching right now and your brain is kind of like, okay, you just said a lot of words at me, and what does that mean? I'm lost. That's okay. Like, because it applies on multiple levels, so it can be confusing. So if you're feeling that way right now, I promise you're not the only one. I walk through this with coaching clients all the time, and they give me blank, fluttery eyes a lot. So that is okay. And which is why I'm so excited, Felicia, to jump in and kind of put this in action, show how I do this kind of in a Google Doc in real time. So that you can kind of see how it applies.
I'm excited, but I have a question. Is this something that people that are watching right now, when you walk through this with me, can they open their Word program and can we all walk through this together? Okay.
Totally, exactly. Open up a Google Doc. You're going to see over my shoulder, or if that feels like too much right now, grab yourself a piece of paper. Again, I have on my opt-in, you actually can like print out a worksheet that you can go through that's going to walk you through the steps before you start writing like in a doc. But I mean, literally a notebook, piece of paper, grab yourself something and go from there.
I'm going to do it in Microsoft Word.
Can do it really simply. So I'm going to show you what this looks like for me in my own Google Docs. So I have a rule in my life and my business. It's not letting me click over to the next tab. There we go. I don't open up blank docs. You can make your own templates in Google Docs, which I'll live and die by Google Docs. You can create your own templates. You can get a template from somebody else and save it to your like templates library. And I almost never open up a blank doc because, guys, they're scary. Blank docs make me nervous. There's too many possibilities. I need a little structure and like rigidity in my life to tell me where to go. And so I have a couple different formats that I can. Yeah, go for it.
Can we bring you back on at another date, and can you do a webinar on creating Google Docs?
Totally. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's an easy
I feel like I use Google Docs a lot. I also use Dubsado for all of my legal binding contracts. But I feel like Google Docs to people that haven't been in blogging very long, or people that have been in blogging for a long time, but they aren't streamlining and working smarter and not harder, to them, Google Docs can be really like, oh, what do I do with this? I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing that sucks. So can we bring you back for that? Okay, we'll get that.
You guys, I'm going to tell you, yes, we will do that. And yes, make the switch. Just yesterday, one of my writers on my team had written a 2,000 word post, and she's been really reticent to use Word Doc or Google Docs. So she's been sending me Word Docs, even though I was encouraging her to use Google Docs. You guys, she woke up in the morning and she'd written 2,000 words and she lost it. And that just does not happen in Google Docs. There's always a version and it's saved, and I just felt so bad. But she was like, okay, I'm making the switch, I'm doing it. So highly recommend. So when I open up a blog post, it looks just like this. And we're gonna walk through this one right now, this short form, but you can see how there's the story. We're gonna put our story in here, put our pivot, our lessons in blogging turn into subheadings that we're gonna fill in, and then we go through that so what and action. But let me show you, we're gonna focus on this one, but let me show you real quick. Let's say, so this would turn into maybe somewhere between 800 and 1,000 word blog post. But let's say you need to write a longer piece. You're doing an ebook or something that you want to be longer form. Well, you can do that same thing where you have your story, your pivot, your lessons, and then you can put more underneath. So you can go more in depth over, so you have 3 to 5 overarching lessons, and then you spread out from within there and follow that same system again to just kind of like, you know, those like charts are almost like March Madness, how like the chart gets bigger into Sweet 16 in the first round and everything works that same way. Okay. But you can do the same thing for an email newsletter. So you have your first name, your story, pivot, your 3 points, and these can be actual points, something you're teaching in the email, but it also can just be links to other content or to videos that you're doing. You can use those in different ways. But Felicia, I wanted to walk through with you
a piece
of content What do you, I know you do a ton with Canva. You write about all kinds of different things. You have so much that you teach your audience. What's something that you've been dying to write that's been holding you back?
Well, I already told you I need to hire you for a couple things, but we won't talk about those. Okay. Let's see. I want to, let's just start with something kind of basic. Let's do time management, because that's something that I can rewrite over and over again in different ways. If I can just get one time management out there. And I suck at time management. I don't manage my time very well. So that's kind of a hindrance for me, because I don't, you know what I mean? Like, not something I do very well. So
totally. And this is really great because that gives us a keyword to start with, which is always a great place to start. And I'll give y'all guys a little sub lesson about where to put your keywords to make your blogs really strong, make that work. I work with several clients that work with Neil Patel, who is as a consultant, who is a huge in the SEO world. Like, he is the live and die how to do your SEO. And so I pull a lot of my SEO search engine strategies within my writing from there. But let's say we're going to talk about time management. So tell me something that's really hard to you about time management, or what leaves you like your head banging against the desk about time management?
There isn't enough time. That's where I get tangled up in my writing, is it's like I have like very basic thoughts, unless I'm writing something that's high and fueled with emotion on these boring subjects where, okay, it's not that boring, but on these things like time management, where I'm not speaking from a place of vulnerability or anything like that. It's really difficult for me to come up with parts of, like, where do I begin?
So let's say something like, here's a great way to have like a fun title, but still include a keyword in it. So let's go with something like dealing with time management, how to make the clock stand still.
Oh, okay.
Right? So you need something that's like, so this first one, this is your SEO Google friendly headline. Your second headline is the one that's going to hook on social media, right? Somebody's going to click on that on Facebook. And you're kind of including both in one. And so I like to sometimes break up my titles with like a main title and a subtitle in that way to kind of make it fun. And so Felicia, tell me about the most recent time that you like were up against a deadline or needed to get something done and you were like, oh my goodness, it's not going to happen.
Okay. Besides every day of my life. Okay. So one of my client so I'm a VA by day, if anybody doesn't know that. And one of my clients might message me and she might be like, I need you to tell me all of my clients so she has thousands and thousands of clients. And she might task me with something like, I need you to find out all of my clients that are overdue on paying me for billing. And yeah, that sounds like an easy task, but this is somebody that isn't managing their billing very easily or very well. So this is something that, when you give me a 12-hour deadline and I've got 10 hours of work, and this is going to take me 3, and so now there's not a 13th hour, so I'm running out of time. So that's something that I run into commonly. Demands or requests being put on me and giving me a deadline, but then the time just isn't there because I already have made other commitments to other clients and to my children, to my family. I'm juggling a lot of different things.
Totally. And I think that is so common in like this, like boss babes, all of us boss moms, working from home, flex mamas community of like, you are juggling a million things. You feel like your hair's on fire all the time because there's just so much to deal with. Right. So that is such a common, that's such a great story to start with, because that is something that your audience, the people that you talk to, can relate to so well. A great way to start a story, not necessarily, and we're going to walk through right now. We're not going to complete a finished blog post because I'm not going to make y'all sit through all of that, but we're going to do what I like to call an ugly first draft. Okay. I actually had an old mentor that used to say, write drunk, edit sober. And it's kind of whether or not you have your wine in the middle of the afternoon, no judgment here, but it's that idea of like not worrying about it so much. Just get some stuff out onto that page.
Okay.
And a great way to do that with a story is with the prompt, I don't know about you, but.
One sec, sir.
Y'all love when she does this. Cracks me up. So for everybody hanging out, think about that prompt. I don't know about you, but, because that's like how you tell a story to your friends, right? You're like, I don't know about you, but I like get really sweaty when I go on Facebook Live.
You do?
Anybody?
No,
a little bit.
Don't.
Am I the only one? Am I oversharing here? But whatever that thing is, that's what just popped in my head right now because my hand's clammy real life. But whatever it is, that thing that's like really relatable is like a great way to kind of jump into the story. And you might delete that line, I don't know about you, but, because you don't want to start every single blog post you ever write with that, but it kind of can get your wheels turning. So your story is, every day of my life, I feel like I never have enough time. And you're going to fill in with the like kids running everywhere, client demands, like all the things, what's for dinner. You're going to give those couple of examples of all those different things. And then we're going to make that transition into, okay, so now we have a character. In this case, this character is both you and your audience, something you have in common. You need something, you need more time because there's not enough time and we are all exhausted. You have a conflict. There is not enough time. Unfortunately, as much as we pray, we try for there to be more than 24 hours in a day. It never happens.
Hey, Jamie, can you carry on? I have a little one that sounds like he's in distress. So I'm going to
jump into it. Go right ahead. I will continue on. You guys, if you're hanging with me, then we'll keep right on going. So we have all these problems, right? And there's a resolution. We need solutions. We need systems. We need something in order to solve that problem. And so we have set up that story. So here we are. We're given a couple little points into what we needed about setting up the problem that we feel like we never have enough time, in the story about that. You could get really specific in there about a specific instance when you didn't have enough time, or keep it general. Either one, you're still following that 4-step pattern and that story arc, so you're still telling a story. And then we need to pivot into a lesson. And so what Felicia talked about really specifically was when something comes up and it needs to take priority, or it needs to happen right now, but your hair's already on fire. You're already juggling all the things. Somebody can't just throw another ball at you. It doesn't work that way. So what do you do? So we might pivot by saying, but what happens when a new request from a client or from anyone comes up and you just don't have a solution? How do you make time stand still with everything else to deal with that moment? So that is kind of setting us up into moving into the pivot. And then remember going back to kind of our pivot prompts that we had. Let me yell back up to there. There are little prompts that you can use to kind of guide into that lesson when you're there. So let's go with this first then. Here are a few ways. So we're going to jump right into, here are 3 ways that I found to deal with those last minute emergencies in the midst of an already hectic life. And there we go. You're going to fill that in later. We're going to edit, make
Yeah.
it pretty, make complete sentences, but you got an outline going here.
Yeah.
And then let's turn this into 3 lessons. So the first one that I'm thinking of that like comes into my mind originally is saying no or setting expectations. So, and that's going to look something like explaining to the client what's a reasonable request and what can't be done. And so, you know, if it's something that's truly outside the scope of your normal response time or whatever's in your contract, dealing with those expectations. So that's somewhere where, okay, you've got a little prompt, you know what you're going to talk about there, and you can fill that in later. And these sections, you know, 2 to 3 sentences, keep it short, keep it sweet, give it a point. And you don't have to go on and on about each one of these sections. So walk through what it means to manage expectations. What's something else, Felicia, for you? So I'm not totally putting words in your mouth, but what do you do when what did you do when that happened and you get a request that's like, I need all this right now?
So most of the time I make a 13th hour, but no, I'm kidding. What I do is I go back and I look at what my commitments are for the day, and I make decisions on what I can put off until tomorrow or what I can put off altogether. It gives me an opportunity to say, okay, maybe this that I had committed to earlier was a mismanagement of my time, and I just need to X this off completely. So I just reevaluate and recreate what my day is going to be like.
So let's call that something like reevaluate your priorities. So this is a good point, a good opportunity for me to mention, especially for you blog writers out here. Again, this formula can be used for any type of content, but especially emails, blog writing. People stay on a page for, or your audience will navigate to your page and be there for about 8 seconds before they decide whether they're going to stay, keep engaging, or whether they're going to bounce, go away. And so we don't read linearly. We don't start with the first sentence and go all the way through. They're going to scroll through, they're going to look at these headings, your bolded words, your formatted stuff, and that's kind of their first level of takeaways. They're reading just that, and then they're going to re-engage back in further or not. And so you want those to match, especially in these headings. So here's a mistake that I made that I'm going to change real quick is you want it to be kind of same part of speech if people only read those things. So let's say manage expectations, okay. Reevaluate your priorities, so that's like same part of speech. And if that's all they read is those big bolded sections, it would still flow.
Okay.
So, and you're going to tell that exact same story of figuring out what actually needs to be done and what can be put off or canceled. Another little nugget for you guys, especially those of you who are mamas, that kind of thing, writing, I will often create my outline like this. And then when I'm going through and putting in this content, I have an app that I'm obsessed with on my phone. It's called Temi. I'm not an affiliate. I don't get any money for this, but I'm just telling you guys, you need this app. You can record, and you can even like hit pause in between as you're thinking about what you're going to say. It's like voice to text, but really actually well done. And it's 10 cents a minute. I can usually record about 200 words a minute, like recording my content. And that'll take me about 5 minutes to record a minute of content. And I will do that literally in the car to go pick up my son, or like while I'm walking the dog. I write blog posts while walking the dog all the time. That's my amazing tip. And once you have your structure in place and you know what you need to talk about, it becomes real easy to do that. So what else? Let's say we're going to do 3 lessons in this one. Felicia, what's one more thing that you might add in to deal with your time?
Sometimes I simply just have to tell them, no, I can't do this.
Yes. And I want to include that in like manage expectations too. I'm wondering if 1, 2 is something like kind of the done is better than perfect, like just like setting the bar of like best you can. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. No, I'm still here. Just muting myself in between.
Oh no, you're good. So something like we might say, in my brand, and your brand voice is going to be different, but mine might look like something like give yourself grace or give yourself a pass, in terms of the quality, like realizing that the quality of what you're doing or the completeness might not meet your ideal standard of perfect, but sometimes it's okay to just do what you have to do. And there you go. You have a sentence, kind of a little prompt to have in your head to go fill out later of your ugly first draft to fill in. By the way, you guys, you'll see my weird colors in here. I use, and this should actually be pink too. So the way I have a color coding system I always use in my writing, pink means ugly first draft. I use orange when I'm like copying, pasting like facts or something from somewhere else, but I want to make sure I don't plagiarize. And then I turn it to black when I know it's done. And that just helps me know where I needed to go when I'm writing out of order. So that's a fun tip too. So what? Why do we care? So why does it matter to be able to do these things? Like, this might go into, you are a human and you can only do so much, and we have to make room for those things like sleep and spending time with our babies, and all the rest. And so really thinking about like somebody who's come in and wanted to know about time management or how to make time stand still, they're probably reading that because they're panicking, right? Or because they're just overwhelmed and so tired and just need some sleep. So keep thinking about, like, really develop that character in your head of that person that you're talking to who is at their wit's end, and feed that into this so what story that you're telling, because that's going to be that thing that kind of sticks in their belly and goes, oh, you get me, you know me, and you know what I'm about. So you want to include that in that so what. I'm going to put this here so that when I send this
so much. Like, I'm thinking of lots of things, not just like my blog post, but I'm also thinking of like how my special visitor. I'm also thinking about how I'm going to format the modules for my new, like, my membership group when it reopens.
Exactly.
Totally puts things into perspective. If this helped you, make sure you leave a comment down below letting us know that this helped. So Jamie, when you do the call to action, when you wrap this up, what do you do? Like, how do you wrap it up?
So a call to action is, you can kind of go from the standard up. So you've set up the so what. And then again, with those little prompts that you might not always write, but you kind of think them in your head. Mm-hmm. And so this kind of prompt here is that if this helped you, how could you respond? So, and what are you going to give them as kind of next steps for that? And that could look like opting into a blog post, opting into something that you have, or checking out a video that you've done, or it could be leading, like, let's say that you have a masterclass that you're doing on time management. And usually when most of us are writing content, for the most part, we're writing content, especially, online, whether it's for business or, on behalf of a client, it's for a purpose that's kind of leading them to a next thing. Or maybe if you're like a DIYer blogger, you're sending somebody to, if it's making a table, to go make that table, to paint that table for themselves. So you might say, go get to work on your project and send me the pictures. I would love to see your final result. It can be something that simple. But you're basically just answering the question, what do you want them to do next? Using the prompt, like, if this was helpful to you, ... what are you going to say?
Come join me and a million other moms that can't manage their time and need help in my membership group or my free group. That's kind of how it ended. So you guys, if you are a new blogger and you are just getting started in this venture and you're trying to monetize and you're trying to do all the things, a blog page is there to serve a couple of purposes. It's to tell people about you and what you do and let people know that your service exists. And let's be real, a website really takes you to a level where people can take you serious. But it's also all about sending people to other places through these calls to action where they can also find you, whether that's like your free opt-ins or your membership communities or events where you will be speaking or anything like that. So you always want to end it. The call to action really ultimately should always be find more here. You know what I mean? Like they should always be coming for more. Would you agree with me when I say this about bloggers, like any mom bloggers or any bloggers out there, that when I talk to people about marketing and stuff like that, I always say you have to do it from like a servant's heart.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that that's very relevant and good advice for
yes.
any new bloggers out there, to format your blogs in a place where you are telling people how you can make their life better?
Absolutely. And that's really that going back to really, really caring and like showing that you want to help them and solve their problems. And here's the truth, guys. And I hear this all the time as somebody who works a lot in the content marketing space. I hear all the time from clients, but wait, if I give all this away for free, then when are they going to work with me? And guys, I get that, because even though I've done it over and over for other brands, even when I do it for myself and I put this opt-in together, I'm like, wait, what if I give them all this, then will they know what will they want to work with me for? Like, what's next from there? But the truth is that when we hand somebody something in an ebook format or even going on a live, like y'all probably have a lot of information in your heads about how you could apply this, but you might still get stuck and you might still want to talk to me about that. And that's awesome. That's the point of all these things. And kind of speaking a call to action, I'll share with you that I do have an opt-in that I would love to just connect with you guys and know, where you're at, whether you're wanting to kind of do freelance writing on your own for your business. If you're building up a blog you want to monetize, or just marketing your own business through content, I'd love to know more about that. And we'll add this in the landing page for my upgrade that'll walk through everything that we went through today. But I'd also just love to start a conversation with you. Hit me up, comment here, send me a Facebook message. I'd love to hear from you, and just tell me kind of how you're applying this in your own business. I would love to know that. Because honestly, then this is true in the same way as you may be sitting here listening to this and you have more questions for me, the same is going to be true for your audience. You can't give everybody all the answers in the world in 1,000 words. What you're really doing is saying, hey, I know some stuff, and why don't you come talk to me and get more? And the more that you give, if you hold back what you have to give in that moment, all you're really kind of indicating to them is you don't have that much to share. You don't know that much. So why would you hold that back? This is your moment to be like, hey, look at me. I've done all this work. I've had all this experience. I'm a smarty pants. Look at what I can do. Which is really hard for me to say about myself. But when I look at the other people that I work with, it's so true. There are so many mamas doing this work that are so, so smart and capable, and who can sometimes feel held back just because we need that flexibility. We need to have the kids running around. And people think that means that we're less professional or less capable. And that's just not true. And so, don't be afraid to say, hey, look, I know what I'm doing, and let me show you that, and then come work with me.
I love it. I love it. So I talked with you about possibly collaborating together, about hosting some things. And now that I've actually talked to you, I didn't know what to expect. Like when I do these interviews, most of the time, I would say 98% of the time, it's way better than what I imagined. Like it really is. Like I do it and then I do it and then I get in here and I'm like, oh my God, she's like way more expert than what I expected. She's so extra. But I think I would love to get some of the girls together that are constantly in my inbox, and we should do a workshop about how to start a blog. Like like people ask all the time, how do I start a blog? And to me, it's like this. It's like you just start, like you just begin. Yeah. But there's a little bit more to it. I mean, you can, think a little. You are so good at breaking down steps and how the process, you know what I mean? To where people that are all tangled up can kind of get their big web organized. I really think you should do that.
I think that would be a blast. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'll tell you, you guys who are in that like needing to start but not holding on, I just want you to know that I get you. This is actually my first Facebook Live interview thing like this, and I've been waiting. I've had my website up wanting to do this kind of thing for like 6 months, but I have been so scared because you just have to jump on and do it one day, and you haven't done it before. It's so scary. And once you start, it's really not as hard as you think almost every single time. And So you just kind of do it. But I would love to walk through those things. And I would love to know kind of what the other needs are. I'm in the middle of developing some courses for teaching, especially teaching mamas how to build careers as freelance writers. If you've tried direct sales and blog, all the different things, and you're just like, I just need consistent income. But I'm also teaching some folks I do one-on-one work in terms of editing. I'm not taking new copywriting, like from scratch copywriting clients right now, but I do polishing and editing. And then I'm kind of developing some different programs, but I'm really eager to hear kind of what people are looking for and like, what's the thing where you're like, oh, teach me how to do this, or here's how I see it applying. I would love to know more about what people are looking for. That'd be so helpful to me.
I would love to help you get together with some people, like an audience that really, really needs you, because I can think of a lot of people right now. We have a couple of questions. We have a couple questions. We have a couple comments. The first one that's standing out to me is from Alex Mitro. Alex, we're glad that you're joining us today. When you guys see my beautiful pictures that I often use on my website and I often use in my Facebook post where I'm wearing the pink dress, Alex Mitro is a photographer, and he took those images. And when he did those images, that was the first time that he had ever done a branding like lifestyle shoot, and he blew it away. So I mean, they're,
oh my gosh, they are really pretty. So that's awesome, Alex.
They're all over my media kit, and they've gotten me a lot of affiliate marketing opportunities to help support my family. So thank you, Alex. But so Alex says it may be a little off topic, but are you all going to be focusing more on your personal Facebook pages over your Facebook business pages after the new Facebook update? Alex, that's an interesting question. A lot of people worry about all of these new updates with Facebook. My opinion is this, and there are experts out there that will disagree with me. If you are going live and you're creating valuable content, then no matter what the updates do with Facebook, as long as you build an audience that has stock in you, they're going to keep coming back. But my audience, or I will always, from here on out, I'm investing most in my website, because if Facebook shut down tomorrow, a lot of us would have no business and no way to get in touch with our clients. So that would be what my plan is, and what I'm advising other people to do if they ask me. I would say, you know, if you're really worried about Facebook updates and things like that, always be focusing on your website. I had Meg Brunson, a Facebook expert, former Facebook employee, on here the other night, and she talks a lot about that. So you should check out that live. You're welcome.
I totally agree. You own and from a content marketing just like strategy perspective, your website, your email list are the two things that you own, you control. At the end of the day, you can't control other people's inboxes, but you have control over your own list. So all that social media, a lot of people call it rented space, and it really is. That landlord can change the terms or kick you out or paint the walls, do whatever they want, whenever they want. I am personally using more of my personal Facebook. I actually don't even have my Facebook page launched yet. And Alex, I don't know if you're like me. I was really nervous about that for a while, because I was like, wait, my friends from high school are on there, and all these people. Somebody taught me how to like segment my list so that I can like really focus on those people that I'm connecting with on my personal Facebook page, and like not share it with my great aunt Susie and those sorts of things. Like people who maybe either it's not as relevant, or like, you know, when you're like somebody older in your family responds to something and you're like, oh, you can kind of segment your list that way and still use your personal profile, but use it for business purposes when it's business, and personal when it's personal.
And Alex, if you have any questions about that, I'm sure, Jamie, if you have questions about segmenting your Facebook friends list, I'm sure Jamie does not mind if you
not at all
connect with her privately on Facebook, and she could probably go over that with you in a jiffy. Kimberly Voorhees, I hope I'm saying your name right. You have a beautiful profile picture. It says it's frustrating when you have a story to tell and you don't know the next steps. Yes.
So true.
Ellen says she would be interested in a video on, I assume she means a video, how to write blog posts while walking Wally. She'd definitely enjoy reading that. I would love to see you just talking to yourself in the car.
Here's the thing. It looks kind of like you're talking on the phone, right? I do it with my headphones. So it just looks like I'm walking around like on the phone with somebody. And even when I pause in between, it just looks like the other person's talking. So it's not that weird. Mostly, I hope.
Okay, Jamie, before we go, I always like to end with tell everybody where to find you.
Yes. So JamieHanson.com, and which check out my name here on Facebook, because My first name is spelled a little backwards, so pay attention to that, but it's Jaime Hanson.com is my website. You can opt in and connect with my email list there, but also just send me a message on Facebook or let's be friends. I would love to connect with you guys in that way. But in terms of the upcoming workshops, courses, and the offerings that I'm going to have, my email list right now is really the best spot to find me and stay connected. And I'd love to do that.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jaime, for your time today. You're a busy woman, and not only that, you're a wife and a mom, and I know how demanding that can be and how, how time management kind of struggle. So you guys, if you enjoyed Jaime's interview, don't forget to follow me here on Felicia Delaney, facebook.com/the Felicia Delaney. You can also join my free community, Fempire Creative, where creative entrepreneurs from all over the world in 3 countries actually are coming together to bounce ideas off of each other and get connected with experts all over. You can also find me on Instagram at Felicia Amber Delaney. I hope all of you have a great day and stay warm.
Bye. Thanks, guys. See ya.